All right, welcome to another episode of Violent Minds. I'm Mark Chauppetta, your resident private dick, and sitting next to me,
or across from you or something, is Dr. Keith Ablow. I think it's next to the viewer on the screen. Resident forensic psychiatrist for Violent Minds. One of the things that we should talk about is exactly what we just spoke about, because I think Marshall McLuhan, who wrote Understanding Media, was right. The medium is the message. He used to say that the medium is the message, meaning it's very hard to overcome the medium through which you're broadcasting. That in some ways is the message. And the message that's going out right now is, that people are, a bit like, you can't figure out, are they for real? Are they not for real? Here they are on the same device. We're coming to you on the same device, not an old-fashioned TV, same device that people access the Metaverse, et cetera, et cetera. So it's very hard to be real to people coming through a machine where, as we experimented with, like, you can add like mustaches to yourself. You can suddenly appear to have a beard. Nobody knows what's real or not anymore, which, threatens to homogenize people. By the way, it drags you into this technology. And Marshall McLuhan predicted a third world war because of it, by the way.
Really?
He said people do not like being homogenized, sort of inhaled, absorbed by a new technology. For him, it was television when he wrote it. And so he predicted that that would cause war, which it did. And now here comes the internet, and look at what we're looking at. Ukraine, Russia. Could there be a thermonuclear war? We're saying, if there is, it could be because people don't like being inhaled by one technology that owns all of them. They want to be tribal. That's their solution. You know what? We'll kill each other. That proves we're real. Not good.
Crazy. It's.
Did I just lay too much on you?
That's a lot. I don't know if my intellect level
just like
reaches that depth of what you
also
said.
The concern. Also, I shined my wood. You'll notice.
Did you shine it with pledge?
I actually used like old English something because
Of course you do.
A friend of mine. No, I was using Windex when a friend of mine walked in.
How the fuck would you use Windex to shine something?
I use Windex on everything.
I do too, but you don't shine wood with Windex.
I'm 60. I've been doing it for 40 years, and it's, but she said, she's another professional person I know. And she said, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "What? No, sorry. You're right. I shouldn't be taking our time shining my wood." She's like, no. Like, you don't use Windex on wood. So she sent me.
Are you sure that wasn't like a metaphor or something? Like, are you sure she was actually talking about the,
I knew you were going to go there with the large
shining the wood
column, the large shiny oiled column behind.
Is that kind of on the same lines of polish your knob?
I don't know, Sigmund. No, Freud said sometimes a cigar is just a cigar.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So I don't know. Do I record? It's an open question. Yeah. Do I Zoom or create this broadcast with you with the large column behind me as, as a sign of something? I don't know. As Donald Trump said in one of the debates when he held up his hands, now they're hitting on my hands, he said, saying that because these are small, something else is small.
Right.
There's no problem in that department.
So you have a large piece of wood behind you, and that I would assume is weight bearing and is holding up your house.
Well, again, in the spirit of things being difficult to discern, are they real or are they not? I don't think it is weight bearing.
No,
I think it's an illusion. I think it's a creation of the designer who planned the look and feel of the place.
Okay. I
bet I could knock that thing right out and be no worse for the wear, but I'm not sure.
You want to try it?
Yeah, I don't think I want to try it.
Little Paul Bunyan action.
What's that?
Little Paul Bunyan.
Little Paul Bunyan. I'm a little hyped up today.
Are you? Why? Coffee? Well, you're drinking coffee.
All day, every day.
All day, every day?
All day, every day. Yeah, because you know what it does for me? It's like an anti-anxiety play. I find like if I have coffee and I can drink my coffee, I'm
Mhm.
not going to demonstrate, but if I can drink my coffee, like you could tell me, Keith, we're going to remove your arms now.
Yeah.
I'd be like, let me just have a sip of coffee
Right.
before, right?
See, I always wanted to drink coffee, I think, because I wanted to emulate my parents when I was little. And they were always drinking coffee, and it was a sign of like maturity and adulthood. And then when I could finally drink coffee, I felt like I arrived as an adult. So, um,
Oh, that's interesting.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And it is soothing. Like my wife never drank coffee ever in her life until she met me, and I introduced her to coffee.
really.
And now she's swears by it. You know, she has a cup in the morning and a cup when she gets home from work. And it is, ironically enough, depending if you drink decaf or if you drink regular coffee, but it's something that does, give you a little boost of energy. But
Well, it's also incredibly healthy. I think it was
yeah,
Voltaire who drank like 13 cups of coffee a day and
what are
lived
you
like,
drinking though? You must drink good coffee, right?
um, when I feel like splurging, I drink good coffee because I order this coffee from, on Amazon or whatever, called Death Wish Coffee.
Right,
It's really good. And they're not our sponsor,
right.
but nonetheless, but sometimes I'll just go downstream and I'll be at like the discount place over in Salisbury, Mass. And like, it's like, oh, there are how many? Like 24 pods for how much? Like
So
$9? I'm
you're
like,
ruining the environment with the Keurig.
does it ruin the environment?
So,
It
so
probably does.
So they say, they probably, get in the landfills, and it's probably. But although I think they've
Oh,
started to make them that are more biodegradable now. But it's convenience, and everything we do in America is about convenience. Back growing up, our parents brewed a pot of coffee. You know,
yeah.
now I get up and you put it in, you crank it down, and you do either 8, 10, or 12 ounces, and you're on your way.
Well, they also have, the refillable K cups. Like you can open it, put in regular coffee. That's probably what I should start doing,
Yeah, but
just for the environment.
that's an inconvenience. That takes time when we're also transient and busy, and and what's that old
Yeah.
saying? Just sit back and smell the coffee. What is it? Wake up and smell. What's the fucking saying? I don't
Well, I think wake up and smell the coffee is like, look, you need to
know.
be on it. You need to be focused. When people say that. But no, I think a lot in terms of coffee. So I like to tell people, listen, you may think your life is challenged in certain ways. You may think that inflation is a bit out of control. You may think of a lot of things, but if you think, I can still walk down to the coffee place and get a cup of coffee, that's like a rare thing.
Yeah.
Like you can't do that you can't do that right now in Ukraine, and you can't do it in a lot of places. It's kind of like, wow, I can still do that.
there's
That's good.
something there's something about, like, I've traveled different parts of the world, and getting a cup of coffee in Brazil or Argentina or Portugal, just sitting at cafes and having I mean, the coffee is obviously a lot different in other countries, but and it's a way to break bread. It's a way for you as a therapist and a doctor to, maybe offer someone a cup of coffee to kind of take away the anxiety or something. It's like breaking bread.
Would you like a cup of coffee? Right. I always do that with folks who visit here for coaching, used to come in for
Yeah.
psychiatry. Absolutely. But you in cafes drinking coffee alone in all these European nations, were you looking to, I mean, what were you looking for there?
I'm usually on
You were,
a undercover gig, so a newspaper and a cup of coffee always works. It's funny. I went into a local hotel recently to do a little surveillance work on a woman that I was watching. She was an escort, and
ah,
I walked into this chain hotel, and they had a continental breakfast going when I walked in. So I made myself breakfast, made myself a cup of coffee, grabbed the USA Today, and sat there like
wow.
I just belonged.
Amazing, really, when you think about it. People generally don't do that.
Right.
But you could.
But I'm dressed decent. I don't look like a vagrant, you know. So no one thinks twice. They just think that I'm just a hotel patron. And you know, if you have confidence when you do things, you can get away with things.
Absolutely true. Is there a highlight reel for the things you've done with confidence that really you didn't have an admission ticket for? Is there anything?
With coffee or with confidence?
Just with confidence and or coffee, but yeah, I don't know if there's any outlier where you're like, you're not going to believe this. I actually blank, attended, or is it the continental breakfast? Is that the
Continental
leading item?
breakfast. I've infiltrated, certain meetings and seminars, undercover, things of that nature.
Interesting. Yeah, that's cool.
Doing, either watching people or observing or taking notes on certain cases and subjects that I'm watching. But yeah, really cool stuff like that. So, and that's the whole part of, playing a different role and getting to kind of go into a character when you're playing an investigator. That's kind of the cool part, of the job when I'm not doing a day-to-day criminal caseload. Today I was at the Old Colony Correctional Institution here in Massachusetts, meeting with a client of mine who is, I can't really say too much, but he's an inmate that is in litigation with the Department of Corrections. So doing a little investigative work for him. So, yeah, it's always interesting going into the jails because I am an ex-CO. So
a corrections officer.
Correction officer, right? So
correction officer.
Correction officer. So just think of that term, correction officer. So they there to correct people. Is that where the term is derived from?
Yeah, to sort of fix them. Is that right? Or to tell them the rules and correct them when they break them? I don't know.
Yeah, I guess. I think that's all kind of changed over the years. It's kind of like community policing. I really don't think they're there to really serve a purpose or to help the inmates. I think they're just there to punch a clock, do their job, and leave.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but so aside from that, you know what happened to me today?
What happened, dude?
I'm limping around. I think I tore my MCL.
Oh no, I have a great physical therapist, Kathy Fairbend, who you should call. She's local and she can work by Skype, Zoom. You can go see her. She's the best.
Yeah. Well, first I got to get an MRI and see what's going on in there.
She'll tell you.
Physical therapy.
She's a human MRI, but I'm sorry to hear that. So how did you do it?
52, acting like I'm 22.
Like meaning?
Meaning jujitsu, martial arts.
So you think that you tore your what?
MCL.
Yeah.
So
okay.
It's on the inner part of my knee.
All right. Well, really, I'll hook you up, and you can ask her for some pointers, and then get the MRI.
Yeah, I got a doctor's appointment in the morning and see what that's the whole scam. It's like. It's kind of like when you write a book, back before you could self-publish something, you really couldn't get a book published unless you went through an agent who then rapes you and takes a percentage. Now, as a patient, you have to go through your primary care doctor who doesn't know shit, because nowadays there's a specialty for everything down to a fucking hangnail.
Well, not only that, but you don't get to see, half the time you don't get to see the doctor. You have to get to see like some sort of representative, like a provider. I'm a provider. What? You're what? Right. I'm a provider. Yeah. My daughter, well, I shouldn't probably, but anyhow, she wanted to go see a doctor. Nothing serious, whatever. So in Manhattan. So I call a friend of mine. I'm like, yeah, can you just give me a name of a great internist in Manhattan? He's like, oh yeah, definitely. He's like, so you're going to join the practice? I'm like, join the practice? He's like, yeah, well, there's a fee. It's like 50 grand. I'm like, it's 50 grand to what? He's like, it's a concierge practice. That's the membership fee. Yeah. Then you pay a small amount per year. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. He's like, oh, well, that's much more difficult because then you're going to end up seeing a provider.
Right.
I'm like, what's the provider like a nurse practitioner? He's like, maybe, or
Yeah.
maybe just a nurse.
Yeah.
I mean, we're dumb. I mean, nurses are great. Nurse practitioners are great. Now you have to be careful because I've already been canceled like 3 times.
Well, nurse practitioners pretty much do the whole job, for the doctor. The nurse practitioners, first like a nursing student or, comes in and takes your vitals. And then if the doctor's not available, the nurse practitioner comes in, and then after the nurse practitioner comes in, maybe you get to see your doctor, but then now they're like cab drivers. Now they're on like a meter, so they really have like 15 minutes to sit there with,
and they're miserable because their lives have been ruined by insurance companies. They're like, oh my God, I have to see 145 patients today to pay my car payment. Which, they look, I mean, the doctors still live good lives, relatively speaking.
Not like they used to, though. Doctors and lawyers don't have that prestige that they once had many years ago. Now they're kind of a dime a dozen, especially lawyers. But so I have to go see a doctor just to get a referral to go get an actual MRI. So that
does not make sense. You should be able to walk in like a gentleman, say, I'm absolutely certain I need an MRI, but the system's been gamed.
Because people got their hands out. Someone's got to get a payment for something.
Correct. Plus, just to throw in a parenthetical, and then, maybe my caffeine will wear off. But the parenthetical is that I consulted to this company. Their job, actually, they have a software where you can literally put in MRI knee, and it'll list out the prices, because they won't tell you the price when you go in. If you say, how much is this? Well, we don't know. It depends on your insurance. It depends on deductible. He's got the software. You can look and see, wait a second. And, the interesting thing is, within like a 5 square mile radius, it might be 13 times the price for an MRI of your knee at one place as opposed to another, both equivalent, same quality.
Yeah.
But the insurance companies are paying 13x at one place and 1/13 at another, because that's the negotiated rate. But you're paying that because if you have a high deductible, you may pay $5,000 for that MRI for your knee when you could pay $600 down the street.
Yeah, the healthcare system's fucked. And I've been kind of procrastinating with it. I've just been spitting on it and putting some dirt on it, hoping it would get better.
No, you better take care of it. You're 52.
I'll be 53 in April, a few weeks. So
I'll get you an action figure. You're easy to buy for. That's what I like about you. Like anybody else, I'm like, which rare book for his?
I wanted anatomically. How do you say it?
Anatomically correct.
Correct Barbie doll.
You want an anatomically correct Barbie doll? I don't even know if they made those. No, I'm thinking anything from the $6 Million Man collection.
Sure.
But you might have it.
Sure. It doesn't matter.
You already might have it.
It doesn't matter if I already have it. If it's a gift and it's a thought that counts, and I'll cherish it.
Also, well, I'll have something very nice for you. Also, I'll say this about that. I don't know if you were a fan of Batman.
Of course I am.
Okay. So I did a Skype thing, or a Zoom thing with a guy the other day, and his background, like his fake background, was the Bat Cave. I thought that was cool, right? I'm not much for fake backgrounds because I think it's just another little knock on reality, right? And that's
reality nowadays is so hard for people that I think people just try to suspend it and live in a different.
Yeah, it's a bad idea though. It doesn't work with, never works. Doesn't work with booze, doesn't work with Coke, doesn't work with sex, and it won't work with virtual reality.
You're doing extremes. You're talking drugs, you're talking alcohol. I'm talking suspend reality with something that's not detrimental, to your health or to others around you.
This what we're doing is the biggest drug going. They are mainlining this shit into our systems without any resistance, making $1 zillion. This is a cartel, okay? All of these tech companies, they're a cartel selling drugs.
Yeah.
because when we do this or someone else clicks and looks and surfs and this, lots of dopamine is being dumped from your nerve cells in your brain, not in a way dissimilar from cocaine, just less over a longer period of time, but
Yeah.
it owns you. And then you try to detox from this stuff. Did you get a message? I'm sorry, are we distracting
You
you?
know what? I don't know how to turn off the
See,
email
that's,
pop through my computer. I have to ask my
it's
kids.
like from Central Casting, case in point, it owns you. You don't know how to turn it off.
An own.
Right.
You know what? In one
And
of
we
my
lost a moment there. See,
Yeah.
we were connected and
you
then
were,
it
and then
owned
bing,
you.
well, you just got distracted. I wasn't. I was
I
multitasking.
was distracted by your distraction.
Yeah, I was multitasking.
Yeah, you were multitasking,
Or you
but
got annoyed.
multitasking is not tasking at all.
Annoyed. Maybe that's what happened.
Multitasking is an oxymoron,
Yeah,
right? Because you can't multitask. You are either on task or you're not.
I was tasking.
You were tasking. It's sort of like people who try to task on their phones in their cars, and then they're like, "Oh shit!"
Right.
Right? Scary.
Horrible.
But anyhow, and that brings us, I think, right to one of the topics we thought of talking about, which
Yeah.
is you watch Will Smith
Yeah.
slap Chris Rock,
Yeah.
and then people are saying, "Is it real?" And I actually saw a comment like on a Twitter feed. Twitter, see that we're
Right.
all so screwed up, dude.
Right.
Like I hate myself right now.
As you were sipping your coffee, you were scrolling through Twitter.
It's mind numbing,
Yeah.
brain, nullifying. But anyhow, so yeah,
What did you see? What did you read?
I forget. No, I'm only kidding. So what I read was someone said, no, it wasn't fake because I saw a news report. Okay, it wasn't fake. It was real because I saw a news report and there were real police there. Now,
What's that point?
who would ever think to call police real police? That's how we're losing our collective minds.
Well, as opposed to security officers, Paul Blart type, you don't know who Paul Blart is because you don't watch TV or movies.
Well, maybe, but then you wonder, well, could they have had actors coming as police? I suppose. But anyhow, what do you think? You think it was real, right?
Well,
it was real?
At first, when I first saw it, I questioned it. I didn't know if it was a work, to use a wrestling term. I didn't know if it was a work.
What's a work in wrestling?
Fake, made up, So if they were staging it.
Oh, like in like the WWE.
Yes, WWE, it's called a work. So
okay.
Was it a gimmick? Was it a work? At first I thought that, but then after just kind of doing some homework and, because people are like, well, Chris Rock put his hands behind his back. What man would do that if he's going to get slapped? I don't think obviously he didn't expect it. I think he was
right.
I think he was kind of leaning in because he thought he was going to come up and whisper something to him because they had just laughed.
Yeah, he was like, yeah.
Right. So the communication was off, but no, I think it was serious and I think it was a disgrace. I think it was and people were saying it was fake because there's all kinds of theories because the Academy Awards, the ratings are down. No one watches them anymore, but
right.
And it's a shame because Will Smith is a wonderful actor and he's been trying to get an Academy Award for many years.
Right.
Deserved them before. In this movie, King Richard was a great movie, and he played a great part, Venus and Serena Williams' dad, and he was deserving of it. So he kind of just took away it from his own moment. But I just think he's a beaten man. That I think you can go into this as a doctor. Is that I just think that woman, his wife, is evil. I think she's toxic. I think she's evil. I think she's done something to this guy where his emotions are all over the place. They have an open marriage. She's sleeping around with guys that are her kids' age. She's, I don't think he's really too hip on it, but he's so wrapped up in her that he doesn't know what to do. He laughed, he looked at her, she's angry, he goes up, he comes back, he's crying. Like he's just a mess.
Yeah, and I don't look, I think there are very few accidents in life. And so the idea like, oh, she's holding him hostage and she's an evil temptress who, is making him witness her, indiscretions, which really aren't indiscreet because
Right.
she's apparently like out in the open with it.
Yeah.
Right. So they have an open marriage, right?
Yes. They have an
Right.
open marriage. I think he has no choice but to, um, kind of conform to it. I don't, if I was a betting man, I don't think it's the route that he would want in life, but he's so in love with this woman and, that I think he just accepts it. But it acts
Is
like,
that what the word is sort of on the street, that
I
she's the
think so.
driving force?
That is the word on the street. Yeah.
Huh, interesting. Well, listen, I will say this about that. And I know it's not in line with maybe the Christian or fundamentalist
Yeah.
or both way of seeing things, but I think life is so complex. I've told you this, right? I think life is so complex. There are so many demons laying in wait for us.
Mhm.
Illness, unexpected, God, thermonuclear war,
Yep.
that I guess if folks were to say, well, should we feel guilty? Are we to feel terribly guilty about such, quote, indiscretions? Where do they rank on the scale of betrayal? Now, most people would say, well, that's the biggest betrayal you could possibly have. To me, it's way down on the list. Like if somebody I was involved with in a relationship came home crying and said, look, I mean, I was at this convention and I slept with this guy, I would say legit, and what's for dinner?
Yeah. See, that's you're an anomaly. That's
I'd be like, honey, I thought from your demeanor that you were going to say you had had a mammogram today and
cancer.
it's bad.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I guess if you put it that way, and you put it in that perspective, yeah, obviously that's far worse.
plus,
But
listen, I'm the most narcissistic guy I know.
yes, I know.
And even I think that a decent looking waiter would be more interesting if my wife and I were still married to my wife than I am. Like after you have sex 1,000 times, I hate to break this news to people. It's pretty much over. Right?
You got to spice it up. You got to mix it up. You got to role play. You got to do
No,
things.
it's pretty much over.
You got to put you got to put the wig on there, and
you're still wearing the wig. I've talked to enough people, thousands, right, to know that it's one in 1,000 couples who maintain passion for each other after 15 years.
1 in 1,000.
I'm overestimating. It's 1 in 200. The rest are either miserable or not having sex or faking.
Right. Well, how do you get to that level of security, I guess, because people
Security?
being secure within a relationship, because most people are just, insecure. They're insecure about themselves, so they're insecure about the marriage. So I guess if you can get yourself to a point where you're confident enough in yourself, then you're not going to you worry about something like that. But I have friends who I won't mention that live that type of a open life.
Oh, an open thing. I'm
Yeah.
not advocating or
they have one of the best
arguing against.
But they have one of the most loving, best marriages that I've ever seen out of all my groups of friends.
That's interesting.
Which is amazing. It's almost like, I look at them in amazement, kind of like I look at a 400-pound guy that looks at a cheeseburger, with joy and can just eat it and be confident about eating it and not caring about that cheeseburger. Where me and most people eat a cheeseburger and they feel guilty afterwards. Me and most people may feel insecure about certain situations when it comes to your spouse or other people. It's counterproductive in life to be like that, but people are like that.
People are like that, and we're very focused on body, right? Freud was right. Like sex, you invoke sex, you can destroy a guy's career. right? The governor of New York, I'm no fan of ex-governor Cuomo, but you suggest that he may have touched the upper torso of a woman, suggest it, say it happened. They say it happened without permission 15 years ago.
Right.
And people are like, he's out.
Yeah.
Wait a sec, we have no proof. No, he's out. Interesting. Crazy, by the way, if you ask me. Insanity, right? Or he walked through a door and he touched someone's abdomen on the way through the door and said, nice to see you, touched her abdomen. Okay.
Case like that right now. I have a gentleman that was, again, without giving details, I have a gentleman that was accused of pinching a girl's butt in line at a box store. Person left. Woman complained to security, called the police, figured out who the guy was, and they arrest him. Now he's facing felony charges, and it's for a pinch.
Felony sexual assault.
Felony sexual assault.
He'll be listed as a sexual offender.
For a pinch.
Which is weird. He's a weirdo.
Over the pants, not even under the
pants. He's a weirdo.
Yes.
He needs some kind of help. Is there evidence that such a person would ever, God forbid, rape someone? I don't think so.
From being a pincher, is that a gateway? Is pinching a bum a gateway
right
to rape?
Well, perhaps not. And in other times, as Mike Tyson said, violence, he said, is a matter of time and perspective, like what we consider violence. That's considered now a sexual assault. It used to be considered inappropriate and weird, but not like that you'd land in psychotherapy for the rest of your life and you can't have relationships and you should get $1 million and this guy should go to jail and he should be listed on the sexual offender registry. So we take the physical very seriously. But for me, were I again in a committed relationship, and I'd be more troubled if my wife came home and said, let's say I remarried, and she said, I've had some of the deepest conversations of my life and felt I could talk most openly. It's weird with this guy at work. I'd be like, why can't we do that? That's troubling to me.
Well, especially you being a professional when it comes to talking and having all the degrees and having educated and counseled thousands upon thousands of people, then your own most intimate person in your life comes to you and says, I can't talk to you.
Right. So that would suggest to me, well, then you have a deeper, more meaningful connection with the fellow at work. If she said, I had sex twice with the fellow at work, I wouldn't assume, oh, you guys are connected more deeply than we are. I'd be like, whatever, like, I'm not going to pay him.
Right.
Number one, just kidding. But so you're distracted again.
No, I'm looking at
this craziness. This craziness. You injured your leg, you didn't have head trauma. Did you hurt your head?
No, because what I'm doing is I'm producing.
What are you doing?
I'm producing the show as we're doing the show.
Oh, you are?
Yes.
Oh, see, I'm free from the necessity to do so because you are handling everything. I shouldn't get on your case.
So apologize.
I apologize.
Yeah,
I'm a big enough guy to apologize.
Hypersensitive today because these are things that I've done on 10 other shows prior.
I haven't noticed it as much.
Called me out on it.
I haven't noticed as much. Wait, let me put on my therapy hat again. I forgot it. Wait, there we go.
I was looking.
Are you feeling besieged or beset by anything today?
No.
Oh, your leg.
What's wrong?
Your leg.
My knee. Yes, it's painful.
That's hard. That's distracting in and of itself. It's painful.
Well, because I'm a caretaker to my kids, and if I'm down one limb, it's gonna be difficult when it comes to things. Spring is here. I mow my lawn twice a week. I'm a landscaper at home as well, and my martial arts is my therapy. So I'm hoping that there's some approach that it's not as injured as I hope. It heals up and I can just tape it up and go, because I'd rather be in pain down there than be in pain up here.
Well, I get that. But, and not to dwell,
You can
of
dwell.
course. But, given that you do have sons,
Yes.
twins who do have muscular dystrophy,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, you can't afford, as you just alluded to, you really can't afford to have your muscles not working, because they're working for you and they're working for them.
Nice, little connection there. But
It's true.
yeah, but you know what? I don't live life scared. And you have to, even though you have something like that extreme in your life, the second that you slow down and stop making all these changes in your own life because of the fear of not being able to do something, and that's when shit starts to happen. So you get to just kind of live life and just plug along. You can step off a curb tomorrow and get hit by a bus, so.
Sure. What was the earliest thing in your life that you might have been afraid of if you had allowed yourself to be afraid, but you overrode it? You could have been stopped by it. You could have been really devastated in a way by it, but you somehow found the resolve to kind of move past it without crumbling and go all the way back. Maybe it's first grade, maybe it's not, maybe it's third grade, maybe.
I don't know. I mean, being adopted, maybe. That was taboo back in the 60s, in early 70s, when you're a little kid in the neighborhood. I remember that day. I remember for some reason, I remember my next door neighbor was also a friend, same grade, this girl. And we grew up in a small town. The houses were really close to each other, so
Yeah.
and I just remember being outside one day and all the neighborhood kids coming up to the fence and said, "We heard you were adopted."
Yeah.
Almost like it was like something was wrong with me. And I
Well,
said,
it makes you feel that way. It
yeah.
can make you feel that way.
And I said, "Yeah, so what?"
And you knew this was not the first, they didn't know something you didn't know.
I was probably 7 or 8 years old, 9 years old at the time, but it was always known to me that I was raised that way. So secret.
Right. And so what did the kids then say? So do you remember that? You remember saying to them,
I remember. And then I just think like any other kids, that was, okay, let's go play, something along those lines.
Right.
It wasn't really a big deal, but to them, I think they had never confronted someone that was adopted before. So I just had to kind of strike the fear out of them.
Sure.
It wasn't a bad thing. And
right.
Let's move on.
Did you carry any internal, not fear but anxiety or questions that you kind of delayed for a while? Because how's a 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old going to deal with, well, why or where or how? I'm just wondering, and if it's.
No, it's probably always in the back of my mind, but it was always kind of out in the open because my two older sisters were also, so we all were, so I had something in common with my other siblings. So
right.
It wasn't like I was just kind of on an island myself. So, and my parents made it special. My parents celebrated. We each got 2 birthdays a year. We got our actual birthday and our actual adoption birthday.
That's great.
And then it was always like, when you're ready to get some, questions answered, we'll help you. And,
wow.
So therefore, I guess, you don't, I'm sure if it was like, you don't need to know about that. Then as a child, right. It's kind of like the forbidden fruit. It's kind of like alcohol when you're younger, you can't have that. It's evil, and then what's right. the child going to want to do? They're going to want to run to it. So for me, it wasn't a big deal. It was just, I was proud of it. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, were you a fan of Superman?
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, because he was adopted, right?
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm sure as a child, I related to, I related to that. So, Yeah, it's no, I don't really have it. To answer your question, there's not much that I was very afraid of as a child. Maybe you know, losing my parents to sickness or, things of that nature. I think that was oh, actually, you know what? One thing that used to kind of stress me out as a kid was because it didn't happen often, was when my parents fought.
Hmm,
I immediately thought they were getting a divorce when I was
right.
a child, and that
Yeah.
the family was going to be broken up. So maybe that was some kind of internal abandonment thing because I was technically abandoned as a baby. So maybe as I, when I saw that, but then I realized it was healthy to do that. Then I started to see that, oh, it's normal to have spats.
Yeah.
And
Right.
yeah, so no, I'm very normal.
Yeah. No, I mean, but I can see, I can see why you would have had more anxiety about your parents, adoptive parents arguing, parents,
Yeah.
than somebody else might. And did you stay longer than you ought to have in your first marriage, do you think? Because you felt like, man, I don't want to do this.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Codependency shit. Yeah.
Right. Plus this early
Yeah.
quote abandonment or
Yep.
whatever, you're
100%.
like, yeah. So
Yeah,
how long
definitely.
was that first marriage?
No, I think we were together for 5 to 6 years before we got married. Then, and then maybe 5 more years after that. So when the diagnosis came with the twins disease and things started to deteriorate after that. But yeah, no, nothing crazy. But yeah, I mean, everything in life, I guess, goes back to your early childhood, things that happen to you that you don't even
Really
realize
does.
in your formative years. And then you get faced with that, and then you just have to learn how to fight it and deal with it and work through it, so
Correct.
still
And
like that to this day, with me.
fighting through,
Yeah,
working
everyone.
through. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be a fighter, and I that's what I try to instill in my children. Life isn't what the internet, projects. Life is
Right.
what Facebook projects with people, putting out all these happy posts like it's a constant episode of the Donna Reed show or something.
Right. There's real stuff unfolding.
Real
And so
stuff every day. So speaking of real stuff, enough about, I know you
yeah,
love digging into my fucking brain.
I do. I
Yeah.
do. But to go back to Will
Yeah.
Smith,
Yes.
was there something there for, I'm not saying there was, but was there something kind of refreshing about, you know what, no script. This guy's pissed. He's angry. He's hitting this guy. And then he's crying, accepting his award. Maybe he's a hostage to his wife. Maybe he just loves his wife. Maybe he overvalues her because other people abandoned him. We don't know.
I don't think it had anything to do with Chris Rock. I don't think it had anything to do with him, and I guess the actual comment here, I'm reading it right now on my other screen. It said, G.I. Jane sequel, what's it say here? Altercation at the ceremony took place when Rock, presenting the award for best documentary feature, joked that Pinkett Smith could star in G.I. Jane sequel due to her tightly buzzed haircut. Now, I don't think he had any clue that she had alopecia. Some may think you have that.
I did. Well,
Or
I
me.
do. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I do. Alopecia. I
Male
don't know.
baldness, is that
Yeah.
a
Male
male
pattern
form?
baldness is a form of alopecia. Yeah.
So I don't think Chris Rock knew that. Like Judge Janine was saying on Fox News the other day. She said, geez, if I should run over to Saturday Night Live right now and go up and punch them all in the nose, because
Right.
they're doing skits that are far worse or far
Right.
more offensive, but it's a joke.
Well,
What would have they done to Don Rickles back in the day?
true. Here's both of us being investigators,
Yes.
me of the mind, you
Yes.
of crime.
You have to
Sometimes the two
trash.
things cross and
Yes.
become one.
Yes.
But what I would say is you're right. It is unsatisfactory. The story of why would he slap him if his wife was just losing her hair, to quote alopecia,
Yeah.
is unsatisfying. It does not feel like that's right.
It doesn't rise to that
the
level.
story doesn't make sense yet.
None.
So that means we don't have the complete story.
No.
Now, I'm knocking on wood. I'm not wishing this woman, I don't know her. I don't know Will Smith. I've never treated Will Smith. Maybe I should, but I haven't. But if someone said, you know what, her hair loss is not just due to idiopathic, meaning just hair loss.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere, it's actually part of her being treated for an illness. Who knows? I could see that would kind of explain it a little more, where he's just undone by it. Another thing that might explain is if Chris Rock slept with his wife, had slept with his wife,
Which
and he's up. He did?
No, which he didn't.
You said he did.
No, I said which.
No, you're making news. You know this. You're an investigator.
No, I don't know that. I don't know. But Chris Rock is in Boston this weekend for like 8 shows. Is
he in Boston because you're investigating part of his life?
No, he was booked here prior.
He's not at 3 Center Street, my cottage. I can tell you that.
No, he should be though.
Everybody else comes,
right?
But anyhow, so no, I mean, if he slept with her and then was joking about her, and it's unfinished business between the two of them that they had an affair,
yes,
I could see that.
But he's sending a wrong message to, because nowadays, and ever since this happened, every kid, every adolescent has a cell phone, has the internet. Now every kid thinks it's okay to go up there and just slap someone instead of practicing, patience and self-control, and especially in a setting like that where you're on live TV, you're in a tuxedo, you're supposed to act like an adult. All these millions of eyes are on you. If you had a problem with it, refrain, give a cute little smile, and then during the after party, then you go up and you confront them, and deal with it that way, however you want to deal with it. But I just think it sends a bad message. I think it sends a bad message to the Black community, which, has been, and I know a lot of people have a lot of Black commentators have come out, and spoke out against that,
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think he did anyone any favors in that moment. I think it's bizarre. If someone said, Keith, you must come up with the silver lining, I would say, well, the only silver lining I can think of is in this scripted, fake bullshit world, somebody showed some real emotion and physicality and broke through the screen. They broke through the frame. And emerged as, unpredictable, real, authentic. But that's short shrift.
But the apology came out today from him, and that's like anything. You get accused of something, it's there, it's in bright lights. Then the aftermath of it's usually kind of, he put an Instagram post out today, which kids aren't going to see that post. Kids are going to see the slap. But he did come out and say violence isn't right. I didn't act the right way. Hopefully that message gets out there, and hopefully me as a parent, and I've talked about it, I hope parents are having dialogue with their kids over this, in explaining to them that this isn't the right thing to do, that it's okay to defend your woman or someone, but maybe physically when it comes to self-defense. You just can't go out and just slap someone or hit someone just because you were butthurt and your feelings weren't hurt. So I'm hoping parents around the world are talking to their young kids who are impressionable in their teaching.
Certainly hope so.
But there's a ton of idiot parents out there that are saying, "Yeah, he did the right thing. You don't ever offend anyone." Like,
no, that's bullshit. And I have to give it. I mean, if you want to look at how somebody can be self-possessed in the opposite manner, you look at Chris Rock, who seemingly was truly hit by a bigger man,
Yeah.
and not softly, no love tap
He had a
here.
great chin.
Right. And catches himself and says, Will Smith just slapped the shit out of me.
True professional.
Right. I mean, he's definitely a true professional. That is probably a kind of silver lining to say, you see what just happened to that guy? He had somehow the internal reserves to say the show must go on. Where's the camera? Okay, we're live.
That was a multi-million-dollar slap.
Oh, worth $1 zillion. Yeah.
Meaning like his worth is going to go up tremendously. Just the tickets in town in Boston for this weekend, which when this airs, violentminds.com is our website, by the way, went from like $50 up to like $450. Just
Right.
slap heard around the world.
Well, plus if they're smart, they'll do a celebrity boxing match.
Right.
The tickets would be $1 zillion.
But did you see, before we wrap the show up, there's been some liberal pundits that for some reason, and I don't even know what the quotes were because I heard them, but they made no sense. But there's been a few people out there that have said that this was Donald Trump's fault.
So ridiculous because he used the F word in press conferences or because he was so physical.
Even Stern said it today on the air.
Oh, Howard.
Right.
What a dick. We used to be friends. Give me an effing break. Here's the thing. Donald Trump was real. He was too real for the synthetic, artificial pandering that's passing for honesty in the world. And that's what offended people. He's a Big Mac eating hyper male who'll tell you where to go if you deserve it. And he really isn't.
Including foreign leaders. And that's why he had the best relationship with foreign leaders all around the world.
Absolutely. And people were offended by it. Why? Because they're fakers. Fakers don't like truth tellers. They hate it. Right. And so it's the same thing as Leah Thomas, who isn't Leah Thomas. Leah Thomas is not Leah Thomas. Leah Thomas is a disordered, ill person who everybody is pretending is normal or better than normal, like heroic. Insanity.
It's only a small fraction, though. There's really only a small fraction of Americans that think this way, but unfortunately, that small fraction has the loudest voice, through the media and through social media and through those social media platforms.
Just predicts horrible things. Like you could tell people, people have a third eye at the top of their head, and it's well known. And you'll get some people saying, "I didn't know that."
Yeah.
That must explain why. Shut up.
You know what I found more offensive at the Oscars?
What?
Other than the slap was I saw a story on the goodie bags they all got.
What'd they get? Oh yeah, what's in there?
It was like $140,000 worth of like a piece of land in Scotland.
Wow.
Like a $20,000 or $30,000 gift certificate to a plastic surgeon.
Right.
Talk about just out of touch, elitist. Your former life.
The imperial phase of my existence.
Yeah, right.
Yes, exactly. It does put you out of touch. And by the way, the reentry phase, which we can get into in another broadcast, but the reentry phase teaches you a lot because you realize, they inflated me beyond all measure in order, by the way, partly in order to do your job, right? So if you're Mike Tyson and you're going to, you gotta have a sense of sort of being larger than life.
100%.
But then, coming down from that, as I've helped some other people who go through that, it's not nothing. It's interesting. Like you'd say, "Oh, really? That's the big thing. You're back home and you're not in a limo." It's interesting because you realize, I guess I was vulnerable ego-wise and narcissism-wise, that being deflated from that hyperinflated state feels like pain. It's not, but somebody needs to tell you, dude, relax.
Well,
Like, right? So
you're a hero to your kids. That's the most important part. That's the most important thing that I strive for in my life, is to, be a
that's
champion,
it.
be a champion to my children.
There's nothing else that matters.
Other than that, anything else is just to feed
Gravy.
my own fucking ego. And, it's probably counterproductive. So on that note, Dr. Keith
On that
Ablow,
note,
I'm Mark Chauppetta,
hey, take care of your
violentminds.com.
knee, dude. You're not Superman. Okay.
I know, I feel like
Take
it.
care of your knee.
I know, I need to get it looked at. I'm gonna get it. You know what it is? It's the fear of the unknown. I'd rather just live in pain than know what's actually wrong with it. So
That's interesting. That you're talking to the wrong guy. I would argue to get deep into what's wrong, fix it. That's interesting. That is very interesting. I know we got to wrap this, but it's interesting. You just gave
yeah.
the antithesis of my
Yes.
entire life's work.
Yes.
I'd rather live in pain, you said, than figure out what's wrong. That's why we met.
That's 100%. And you're still gonna try to figure me out on every episode, and you're never
I'm
gonna
not
quite
going to
get
let it go. I'm not going to let you just live in pain rather than diving deep.
I'm going to keep everyone guessing. On that note, you hang on there, doctor. Everyone else have a great day, and we'll be back soon with Violent Minds.